Yes.
We were watching the openings of the Olympics, and this whole sport thing is all about competition and all when you don't get it, work harder kind of thing. It's the opposite of what the teaching is, right? So how is this when you have a dream or a passion, or in sports, this total, I have to win, I have break my legs 4 times, but I still run, this kind of thing. This is all delusion then, right? Yeah? But they achieve a lot of things too. So what is that?
Can you repeat her question?
Yes. So watching the Olympics and looking at the competition and how people in the Olympics push themselves to incredible degrees in their competition to win the medals and to be the best, which we see happening all over the world.
Yeah.
We see people who are driven in some way or another to achieve and to succeed, and they very often do achieve and succeed far beyond what the average person does. And so the question is, really, since this is obviously related to desire and attachment to the self that seems to be in conflict with the Dharma, and I agree that it is. Now, I'm trying to think good examples, and I'm not sure, maybe something will come to me, or maybe you can help me. I guess the question is that without the self-centered compulsion, will the human mind push itself to the same heights of achievement? And certainly when you look at these world-class athletes, they have this very ego-centered, need to be the best. I win. I get the medal. I beat somebody else's speed by so many seconds or even fractions of a second. I am the best. Mm-hmm. The desire to be the best. And that propels them and motivates them. As we become awakened, we become less attached to that powerful, compelling sense of self. But as we become more awakened, the same energy, the same mental energy, or even spiritual energy, if you want to call it that used to be so concerned with worrying about the self, becomes available to become the driving force behind compassion and behind acts of loving kindness and compassion. I don't know if you can become the world's fastest skater for the sake of all other beings. That's an interesting question. But it's not inconceivable to me that somebody who was not attached to their own self-view, but could see their body as an entity that might somehow serve others or serve the world through demonstrating what its capabilities were. Now, I don't know if that's ever happened. I can't think of any world-class athlete that I could point to and say, wow, I think that's a good example of, and I don't know whether it would even happen. Because it may just be that when all of that energy is diverted away from focus on the self, that it goes to other ways of helping people more directly, which in many cases is through trying to teach the Dharma and guide other people to overcome their own suffering, but can take many other forms as well. In some other fields, I can see that in fields like science and technology and politics and things like this, that a more enlightened interest that is based in compassion, can propel a person. It seems that Martin Luther King may have been propelled by that. It seems that Nelson Mandela may have. It seems that Mahatma Gandhi was. So it does seem that in other fields, and I could see that it being the case in medicine and in science and in technology. And certainly those endeavors have a much greater impact on a much larger number of people. So I don't really know for sure if we would have, if everybody was enlightened, whether we would have people that could skate as fast and ski as fast and all these other things as we do. It's an interesting question. I don't know. I also know it wouldn't matter a lot.
The question is more behind this. Olympic is such an extreme of that, as you said. It's always. But what is their so justification is inspiration. For example, they say, if I can do this and you don't have to give up to the kids or whatever, the kid who is sick or has some major happening. Something where they say, when you push yourself, you can get through instead of lying back and being depressed. On that level, where is that going then?
When you push yourself, you can...
Yeah, this whole thing about pushing in this culture is about, it's also an inspiration for the young people that they can do something different than just laying back and, hey, that's it. And this kind of opposite of that, which is also not healthy. It's more this, it cannot be an inspiration, and then it is of benefit for the culture and the public and the people?
Well, yes, I would agree that, that's a very good point. Sports and sports figures and people who are successful can be inspirations. I mean, there's great movies that have been made about people that rise from the most difficult of circumstances. They have a talent, and they use that talent, and then they become examples for others.
And that pushing, though.
What's that?
It's that pushing.
It is.
That's
that ego push.
That's the question. Whether can you push and make things happen?
Right.
And I would say we're looking at people that pushed and made things happen because of their past karma. We're not hearing any of the people that pushed and it didn't happen. Maybe pushed harder than those people that succeeded and it didn't work out. So we've got there's a biased view already because you've seen the people who succeeded at that method. And the question is, did they succeed because they pushed? I'd say no, I've pushed and not succeeded.
Also where they pushed,
Yeah.
It's ego related
Other factors. That's very good point. If we only look at the ones that succeeded, we have no idea how many others that we're ignoring, whether they pushed harder or less hard, or exactly what happened, or what was the difference.
Because the Dharma teaches us it's not the pushing that really, there's a certain level of intention, but it's not the only factor. So.
But I think it's...
Hence my meditation. The more I push at my meditation, the more it does, it doesn't work.
But I think in high-speed skating might be different factors operating. But yes, you do really have to take into account a variety of factors. And there's no question that pushing, motivated by self-attachment and craving, can take people to incredible heights. You can become a ruler of half the people on the planet, and if you're motivated enough, usually means that you have to do a lot of very nasty things to get there. So I don't think it's as simple as the pushing. The pushing is motivation, and so motivation can have many different kinds of sources. So, I think we have to look beyond that. But if we look at what's happening with young people in this country and probably a lot of other Western countries as well, is that they are inspired to push and strive, and the value that is that you have succeeded when the more money you make, the more you've succeeded. And they're also told that it doesn't really matter what you do to get that money, at least as long as it's not illegal and you don't end up in jail. And so that's not a very good kind of motivation at all. Some young people who are more withdrawn, I'm not going to buy into that whole rat race theme, and I don't believe that that's. They may be unproductive. They may seem like they're not doing much with their lives, and perhaps they never will. But they still have the opportunity to gain some wisdom, to further see things in a more wholesome way, and maybe to make greater change. A lot of these inspirational examples are of people who are severely economically depressed. They belong to a minority in a bad neighborhood, raised by a single mother who maybe has to work as a prostitute to make a living, and everybody's drug dealers and drug users around them, and then they rise out of that, and that's right, it's really inspirational. But what would be wonderful is if more of our inspiration could have less to do with the really miserable circumstances that our inspirers start from, and instead the wonderful works that they do for the benefit of other beings. Different kind of inspiration. We talk a lot about the problems of the world, and that definitely, as somebody who aspires to a path to enlightenment, we can't afford to be blind and self-centered. We have to recognize the problems of the world that we live in, but we also have to remember not to be attached at all. It really doesn't matter.
Not to be attached to the problems of the world?
Not to be attached to what happens in the world. To do your absolute best from whatever position that you are in. That's what's important. To try to change the world, save the world, or even one tiny part of it. The secret is to do your best, but to be able to do your best without being attached to the outcome. And that's a challenge, because if you become attached to the outcome, you still may do good things for the world, but you will impair your own spiritual development and your own ultimate efficacy. It's very important to remain unattached. When you get yourself all in a stew about how bad things are going, you're not doing yourself that much of a favor. And at that point, you need to remind yourself that, okay, it is what it is. I'll do what I can. But, to become attached to things being in a particular way or not being in a particular way is only going to reinforce that part of your own mind that, is working out of the old paradigm that I will be happy when the world suits my needs.
You know how I've been working with that a lot? Like, I was so focused on my identity, or trying to figure out my identity in terms of career, in different ways, but in terms of career and
Right.
what I like and what I want to do. what I don't like. Basically I was unhappy with my career. I never was happy I never have liked the job really, never enjoyed what I was doing. And then it just feels sort of almost alchemical or magical or something, because now all of a sudden I like it, I'm doing the same thing. And I was trying to work with my mind and work with it, but it feels almost effortless. Like all of a sudden I just can't seem to muster up the dislike or the dissatisfaction that was so prevalent in my life for so many years. Yeah. And the content of the job is exactly the same. It's the exact same thing, which I think is totally bizarre. It's just kind of freaking me out. I still don't feel like I'm ready. Like I couldn't go to a call center, I don't think, and be happy. Maybe I could, but I don't think I'm there yet. But
you're on the way.
That's one way of seeing Dharma. Because for so many years I felt like I was studying and practicing, but I couldn't really see any progress or anything happening. But at this I can see as a significant change, because I just can't seem to feel as upset or frustrated or unhappy, It's strange.
Well, you said you used to be looking for your identity in terms of what you did. And the way I like to think of this is that, and I'll ask you a question, maybe you've discovered your secret identity, so it doesn't matter if you pretend to be a humble reporter. Because now you know your secret identity.
Yeah, it's much more about reactiveness for me now, watching when I'm reactive. And seeing the whole project as, it's teaching, so seeing the whole project as just trying to help some people get some information.
Yeah. And every single circumstance we find ourselves in, it's an opportunity to look and say, okay, what can I do that's beneficial here, and what can I learn from this? How am I reacting? And
yeah, the reactivity. I'm so reactive my whole life, very reactive. Just.
Well, it's so wonderful that you are enjoying some of the fruits of the practice. And there's much more to look forward to.
I hope so.